Hey, real quick, before we dive in, if you're an agency owner who is doing everything yourself, I want to let you know about this 7 day free trial opening up for the agency playbook. This is our full 8 system framework that over 20,000 agency owners have used to scale smarter. This is the exact system that I normally sell for over $1,600, but right now you can dive in and test it out. If you're ready to stop winging it and start building an agency that runs without you, head over to jasonswank.com/playbook. That's jasonswank.com/playbook. Hey, Colin, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jason, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. Tell us who you are, what you do.
So, my name is Colin Hetherington, and I am from a brand new agency called Common Good here in Dublin, Ireland. But a little like yourself, I've probably been around the block in agency land and have, over the course of the last 20 years, I've set up two different agencies. One was an agency part internal as part of a global network, one of the Omnicom agencies. And then way back in 2008, I set up a digital marketing agency here in Dublin called Zoo.
Cool. And you grew Zoo, but before you started Zoo, what made you left the, agency.com one that you set up in Ireland?
Yeah, it's a good question. So back in, let's say, about 2004, 2005, we set up agency.com. And I actually had to sort of pitch the job to TBWA at the time because when you look back at that time, particularly in Ireland, broadband penetration was really low. I think the internet population in Ireland, there might have been about 37% of the Irish population were online. So it wasn't really featuring in any of the sort of the large networked agencies at the time. But I caught my first bug of digital marketing, or probably internet advertising as it was called, back in 99, where I worked for an agency in San Francisco that was called iTraffic. But while I was there, actually was subsequently taken over by agency.com. And the very small world that we live in and the multinationals and things of that actually 4 or 5 years later, I'm setting up agency.com and in Dublin. So yeah, we set up agency.com and sort of pitched that job into them. And actually they hired me to do another job first because I was one of the few people sort of who would know data and targeting. But eventually I convinced them, look, lads, there's something in this internet thing. You know what? It's time to do it. And we sort of, unknowing to myself, this chief technical officer and the creative director at the time, what seems so sort of straightforward and simple now, but we managed to sort of get the Venn diagram of having marketing strategy, creative, and technology all under the one roof, primarily just because that's sort of our experience. And we started to win business we shouldn't have won. So, we won like the account for the National Lottery in Ireland, the Irish Tourism Board, and with a team of about 7 people. And we sort of figured at the time was that if you were going in and doing a web presentation, you were going in and it was very technical. So it was almost like data point B connect to data point C, whereas we were bringing the marketing strategy to that and really talking about the end user. So I think we brought something different to the time, and there was a depth to the level of strategy that we were doing. So with an agency.com, we grew up pretty quickly. So within the space of sort of 2 years, we went from zero, driving, I'd say, almost about approximately say between around 12% of the revenue of the group. So it grew really, really quickly. And then I guess, okay, well, why do you leave when you're sort of you've set up a team and an agency that's growing so quickly? And I guess with all these things, they start with a cup of coffee. And myself and the 2 other founders of Zoo, so Chris and Martin, we grabbed a coffee after a client meeting, and I sort of thought, guys, there's potentially a better way to do this. And, you're looking back in terms of the revenue that we were generating. You were looking at also just the setup and control that we had of the business. And this idea of that sort of that Venn diagram, I thought, there's actually something we can do differently here in the market. And that was really sort of the beginning of Zoo. That was back in 2008, just right before when, I guess, the Great Recession hit. So,
yeah, that's really when we really hitting our stride, because everyone started pulling back and, they do what everyone does, right? They kind of had that knee-jerk reaction. And I'm like, well, look, man, when everybody's pulling out, we're going to push forward. But when was the point, you grew
Zoo to, over 3 million a year, and you were acquired. But when did you actually realize, hey man, this thing's working? And what did you know, next to double down on, right? Like, I think that's a hard thing for people going, hey, this is working, let's double down, let's go.
Yeah, I'd say it was probably maybe 2015, 2016, around that time. So the first few years, literally, I'd say within the first 8 months of when we set up Zoo, the recession hit. So the first couple of years, we actually did reasonably okay, through winning sort of clients, working with the likes of the European Commission. So good, solid state clients, as well as sort of partnering with other agencies. So the recession had a couple of implications. One was that agencies couldn't invest in digital, so they needed somebody to partner in the background, which we did. And two, with the recession, obviously the production budgets and the media spend for TV was no longer. So people started to spend more in digital, and with less production budget as well. So we got through the recession reasonably well, and grew the team up to about 12 or 14 people at that stage. So about 15, 16, we started to hit our stride, and there was a couple of things I think that sort of brought that into key. As I mentioned earlier, we had the strategy side of things, we had the creative, and we had the technical aspect of what we did. And we started to do really interesting work by combining those three factors together. So very much, I think we were innovating in the market. So a couple of things, examples of work. We did work with Red Bull. We were, dare I say, I'm sure other people are listening out there may have the same claim, but we'll claim it. Working with Red Bull, we developed their first virtual reality sort of activation, and it was for their cliff diving event. So basically people put on the headset, and I remember we got the Oculus headsets, and actually in the process of us getting the developer headsets, Meta bought Oculus. So all of a sudden we couldn't get hands on these other anymore. So we're buying the developer headsets off eBay to make this happen. So basically with Red Bull cliff diving, we put people in the situation of walking along the diving board and jumping in, and the place in Ireland where it's done is stunning. So all of a sudden then Red Bull loved this. It started traveling around the globe with Red Bull. We were doing that level of innovation. We also were and we sent tweets into space to educate people about EU funding for students. We sent students on a live race doing challenges around Europe. We all of a sudden started so we're doing very interesting sort of creative projects combining all these things. The other element that we did at the time was, I always love when you see on LinkedIn people sort of changing their titles. There was a stage when lots of graphic designers started to change their titles to UX designers, and all of a sudden you saw that evolution. And we started to focus more on the UX part of our business as well. And all of a sudden we're working with one of the large banks in Ireland in terms of sort of innovating and how their onboarding process of new customers. What used to be a 2 or 3 day process, working with them, we got it down to 5 minutes. So all of a sudden we're doing this innovation, and that had a number of positive impacts. One, the team got excited, and I'll talk about culture in a minute. So team got excited about the work that they were doing. We started to get recognized for the work in terms of innovation and awards. For the first time, we had people who wanted to work with us and come work on the team. And it didn't necessarily win us new business, but it got us on a list. So as soon as we're going into those creds presentations, they're going, oh, actually, that's pretty cool. Okay, well, let's have these guys in. They might work a little bit of this magic for us as well. So I think that was really sort of the key part in terms of sort of when we knew we sort of were hitting our stride and doing well. But we also had growing pains as well.
I bet you had a lot of clients or prospects that you were chatting with, that you would show them all the stuff with Red Bull and these bigger companies, and then they have like a $5 budget and be like, I want you to do what you did with Red Bull. And we're like, hey man, like, you know how much that actually costs?
Yeah. And you know what? One of the things that we managed to do, and it was probably coming out of the recession, we always found a way. And I think that was one of the sort of the things that there's always a way to do this stuff. and we'd work hard to do it, because during the recession there were no big budgets. Budgets were slashed, so you had to make do with what you did, and that was resulting in just working hard, being clever, using the skill sets that the team had, and finding alternatives. Whether that was a lower cost production company or an illustrator who was a student illustrator, or somebody who was more established in the market. So we always managed to find a way to do stuff, and I think we always kept that as part of the culture. Was actually, there's a trust in everybody to do their job, but also, we've got each other's back, and we'll find a way to do this, no matter the budget. We'll figure out if we believe in the work and we have a strong idea, we'll make it happen.
There's a lot of agencies, and there's always a debate, right? And I think it depends on the person too, of when should I hire? Do I need to sell the business, or do I need to hire before the business? And you took an approach of really kind of hiring before the business and took that financial risk. So why did you do it? And with the new agency, are you going to keep doing it the same way?
Yeah, I think what we did over the years was that I always call them leaps of faith, because obviously you're looking at revenue, you're looking at the fees that are coming in. You can, obviously you have your projections in terms of how it's looking for the end of the year. I always found that we can never really honestly predict more than 4 months down the line. That was just the reality of where we're at the time. So what I always sort of thought was, there's leaps of faith that you have to take along the way, and we would have debated them and we would have agonized over them for quite some time. But they're almost, if there was a month of the team or 2 months of the team being at full tilt and sort of being reasonably stretched in terms of deliverables for clients, that actually they were almost the leaps of faith. And there were probably about 4 that we took over our time. But a leap of faith almost wasn't hiring one person. It was almost we hired 3 at a time, 3 or 4. It would have been a case of, look, if we're hiring a new account exec or account manager, we're going to need an art director and a motion designer to go with that as well. So we sort of really doubled down through those moments of hiring. What we always found in those leaps of faith, whenever we took somebody on, they were busy. And busy pretty quickly. So I guess over sort of experience over time, yes, we were taking these leaps of faith, but there was faith in us knowing that we'd be able to keep these guys, everyone who joined the team, busy. The flip side to that, though, was, certainly scaling our process. I remember there was a time myself and Martin, the CTO, we were heading out to a client meeting. He was driving and I had that sick feeling in the stomach. I'm sure we've all had it. You're going out to a client meeting. You have the window down in the car because you need air, because you know you're that close to getting sick. And a client asked us to come out and pay them a visit. And I said, okay, let's go out and have a chat. And we were pretty delayed and behind time on a couple of projects. And I thought we're getting fired. We're getting fired. Here we go. And they were one of our big clients at the time. So we went out anyway and we got our dressing down. And basically what they said is, look, we really like working with you guys, but will you ever deliver projects on time? So we took our telling off, and what we realized actually at that point was, look, if we're going to scale and grow this, we need to have the processes and systems in place to be able to support that growth. Now, I'm sure Martin and Chris won't mind me saying, but we weren't great project managers either. So there is a degree of knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at. And so that's when we sort of took in sort of outside help, who subsequently joined the team in terms of just developing the process and systems to be able to grow the business. So we had those foundations in place to do that. So that actually when we were adding new people, chaos didn't ensue. It was all very measured and planned. So that was a real learning, in terms of giving up what you don't like and what you're not good at, and try and find somebody who's into that type of that sort of stuff in terms of organization was good for us.
Hi there, agency owners. Let me ask you, are you ready to scale your agency without increasing your overhead costs? If yes, then you need to know about E2M Solutions. Now, E2M is the number one most reliable white label partner for agencies. They specialize in web design, WordPress development, e-commerce, SEO, and content writing. They basically do all the heavy lifting, which frees you up to focus on growing your agency. Now, here's the best part. E2M is just not another vendor. With over 10 years of experience, their team of over 300 experts has a track record of delivering for more than 300 agencies. They're your strategic partner. They deliver on time every time, so you can focus on what you do best. Now, E2M's mission is simple: to help 500 agencies increase their revenue and profit margins with white label services that actually work. And to help you get started, they're offering a special deal, 10% off for the first 3 months, but act fast because it's only a limited time offer. So head over to e2msolutions.com/smartagency to check out their transparent and their flexible pricing. Trust me, if you're ready to grow without burning out, E2M is the partner you've been looking for. That's e2msolutions.com/smartagency. Go check them out and tell them Jason Swank sent you. Yeah, I remember you talking about getting sick. Like, I literally physically got sick going. I had a client in my conference room, and I literally was like, I am going to throw up so bad. Like, I was so sick. And I said, I'll be right back. I ran to the bathroom. I didn't even make it to the bathroom. Like, I went in there like the day after and had to clean all this. Got so sick, came back. I was fine, right? And I actually closed the deal, and it was with this really innovative company a long time ago called like Smart TV. It was like you could physically watch TV on your smart device. And it was like, this was probably 2009, right? It was so far ahead. Like, it was so bad, like trying to watch, like it would buffer all the time. But yeah, when you said getting sick, that's funny.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. You're the true professional, you know?
I was just like, please don't ever go into the bathroom because they're going to look at like someone got murdered in here. I do want to ask you about, you had a very low turnover with employees, because I always looked at when a key person would leave on the team, it not only takes a lot of time away and to get someone up to speed, but it's almost like, I think I looked somewhere, it's like their salary times 3, sometimes even more. And so when you would lose a person, it's just devastating. So how did you keep your churn for employees like less than 5%?
Culture is very important. And it's something, you know, after I left Zoo, I sort of had the opportunity to reflect on. And I think it's more important than when you're in it, than you actually think about it. You know, look, obviously reducing churn means a reduction in time spent on getting people up to speed. It's strengthening client relationships, all that good stuff. But how we did it, it's very much, culture comes from leadership. I would argue, you know, that I sort of joke sometimes that the biggest page on many websites that contains the most amount of bullshit could actually be the values page. And you can write these things down, but ultimately it's how it's lived, and it's how the leadership team delivers culture and what that culture is and means. So we very much had a view that we never really had it written down anywhere, but it was sort of quite simple, really. Look, you try and treat people as best as you possibly can. We took an understanding that, well, look, work is an important part of people's lives, but also there's life outside of work, and you have to be understanding of that as well. And the other thing that we gave people a lot of was, one, responsibility and freedom to do their work. You know, so we're never micromanaging, never looking over people's shoulders, and actually trusting them in terms of their, whether it was a technical skill or a creative output, or willingness to try something. That was certainly sort of what we tried to do. And I think there's also a degree of, look, whatever you say you do, or whatever you say you're going to do, you try and deliver that as best as possible. So like a small example of that would have been, say, during COVID, we managed to get through COVID reasonably okay, because we could flex the business from web to communications and marketing. However, it was tough. And at times, you know, we had to, and with the amount of uncertainty in the market, we were looking at, okay, salaries, and we said, okay, well, look, I'm afraid, guys, we're going to have to reduce the salaries down just until we get a sight of what the market is. But what we promise is, if we get through this okay, we're going to reimburse everybody in terms of any temporary reductions that we've have to do. And we did that, so we went through, we stick to your word and do what best you can. And really the trust within people and give them the freedom to work away, I think was really key to us, and people appreciate that, in their sort of work life,
I always laughed when people would bring their leadership team in and they would sit around a room all day and they try to figure out their core values. Like, what are the core values that are going to win us business and all this kind of stuff? And I was like, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You already know your core values. Those are the beliefs that you already have. Like, what are the non-negotiables that, and so I always tell people, I'm like, look, what are the non-negotiables, or what do you believe is true? Right. And I was just telling we were onboarding some new mastermind members, and they were like, what makes the most successful members? I said, well, all the members that come in have these traits. They all have transparency. So they're willing to share, right? When things are good or bad, they're willing to celebrate wins. They want to share the failures so people can learn. They want to teach, right? They want to be resourceful. And so those are all my core values, my beliefs. And same thing with my teams. And then we associate everyone else with that. And they're like, well, how does it work so well? Like, I'm like, well, everyone believes in the same thing. They're complete opposites, but we believe in the same thing. And I think it took me a long time to realize that, because I always thought I need to hire my twin, and that's a complete nightmare. I'd never get anything done. We just talk about ideas all the time versus someone being able to execute on my crazy ideas and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think one of the unintended things of that is actually you end up working with clients who actually have the same sort of call them unspoken values or whatever like that, and that they always led to, for me, the best sort of relationships and the long-term relationships as well, that we had clients where there was a sort of a shared values piece as well. And because God, over the years, there's been a couple of clients that completely different value system, and it just never worked out. You really, from sort of call from day 7, all of a sudden you just see the world differently, and it doesn't lend to a long-term relationships.
Yeah, I mean, we told the prospects coming in, and still to this day, even on this particular business agency mastery, is like, look, hey, you're evaluating us, we're evaluating you too. We want to make sure we can help you, but we also want to make sure we want to help you. And when you can do that, when you realize that, because I would look back at some of the most nightmare clients, like their deadlines were like yesterday. They were complete asses to the whole team. Like, I pay you so I can treat you however I want. They would dog cuss people, all like literally. I was like, no, you're fired. And so you have to realize that.
Yeah, and that's a brave move as well, It's a brave move that's not easy when, there's a target to achieve at the end of every quarter as well. But ultimately, exactly that, I think, and I say your team just went, oh, this is amazing. He's got our back in terms of not putting up with the shit, that you guys are getting,
The last question I want to ask you, Colin, I appreciate you coming on the show. You're starting a new agency. You've been a part of big agencies. You've grown an agency and sold it. What's the one thing that you're going to do different on this one?
Oh, that's a very good question. The one thing that I will do differently this time around, certainly it's going to have more of a focus. So the new agency is going to be called Common Good, and it's very much focused in terms of the, say, state and civil service organizations in the country. I've worked with a number of state agencies over the years, and so many of them are doing really, really great work. And I believe that maybe not all of them are getting the credit that they deserve. So I think, it is going to be quite focused in terms of what we do. And I think that focus as well, helps us in our own positioning in terms of agency land, because no doubt whenever you go onto so many agency websites, they all say the same thing, whether it's a process or the 5 C's or whatever it might be at the
people
at the time.
Process, portfolio.
People, process, about, portfolio. Yeah, that's it. So it's to focus. It is look, obviously to continue to do the good work that I've sort of done over the years, but also to keep it pretty tight, I think, as well. Like what I'm seeing here in the Irish market, and certainly conversations I've had over the last while, is that big doesn't mean better anymore. I think sort of there is an appreciation for experience. I think there is a growing belief that smaller sort of tight teams can deliver great work, and it's not always necessary about having 50 or 60 people in the agency as well. So I think sort of, what focus, I would say, is it will be the sort of the big thing that we'll sort of do with Common Good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. If you could focus and just be obsessed about the people that you want to help and just do what you say you're going to do, you're going to be better than 99% of the people. It's just too many people don't have that focus. And look, it's probably easier for you starting this one because you've gone through all the pains and the challenges, right? So I get that too. For some of you listening, going, man, I'm still in the grunt of my first agency and I'm trying to grow and I still don't have that clarity of where I need to go. I totally get it. You have to try 1,000 things in order to figure out what you don't like, what you do like. But you just got to start making that list. And one of the things I'd love for all of you to do is just start making that list of the things that really gives you energy and the things that really take energy away, and ask the question, what do I need to do to accomplish this?
Yeah, and I think a big thing, what I would certainly do more of this time around, is to take a step back and think. There's so many sort of, I guess, agency founders and senior agency leaders sort of who listen to this podcast. And actually, one thing I do regret is probably not giving myself enough space and time to actually take a step back and sort of think about where you're trying to go, because the day to day just it takes over. So just trying to find that space. And I was probably finding that space is probably one of the most powerful things in terms of growth of the agency. As I probably didn't give it enough time. So, but actually, if you can build that time into your week or whenever that is, I think that really is, that time to step back provides the focus that we just sort of mentioned there.
Awesome. Well, Colin, thanks so much for coming on the show. And for everyone listening, if you like this, share it out with another agency founder and agency leadership team. We'd love to help them out as well. And until next time, have a swank day.